Gold has never been just a precious metal. For millennia, it has been humanity's ultimate symbol of security, the backbone of empires, the anchor of currencies, and a silent observer to some of history's darkest moments. And in the turbulent years surrounding the end of the Second World War, more gold quietly changed hands than at almost any other point in modern history. Reserves belonging to governments, central banks, occupied nations, and private citizens slipped into hidden vaults, often without official acknowledgement. Militarily, the Allies emerged victorious. But behind the scenes in the world of finance and diplomacy, the true winners were those who could move vast sums without leaving a trace. This is the story of how the world's most trusted form of money was stolen, smuggled, disguised, and concealed, and why significant amounts may still be unaccounted for. To understand how such quantities of gold vanished, one must recall what it meant in the early 20th century. Before the war, many national currencies were tied directly to gold. Central banks guarded it as the ultimate guarantee for their monetary systems. For nations, gold signaled legitimacy. For individuals, it meant safety in an increasingly unstable world. As Europe drifted toward conflict in the late 1930s, governments fearing invasion began relocating their reserves abroad. The Netherlands covertly shipped over 120 tons of gold to North America and Britain. Belgium moved hundreds of tons to what it believed were secure destinations. But when Germany invaded in 1940, the Nazis quickly seized the reserves of every country they overran. For them, gold was not just plunder, it was fuel for their war machine. They used captured gold to buy essential supplies from neutral states, particularly Switzerland, whose banks accepted it with minimal scrutiny. Belgium's gold became one of the most notorious examples. Just before the occupation, Belgium transferred 198 tons of gold to the Bank of France for safekeeping. When France fell, this gold was moved to Dakar, a Vichy-controlled territory in West Africa. From there, in a series of quiet transfers, it made its way back to the Reichsbank, providing critical financial support to Nazi Germany. Other countries tried to act with more foresight. Poland, expecting invasion, orchestrated a dramatic evacuation of its gold through Romania and Turkey before ultimately sending it to the US and Canada. Yet vast amounts of gold in occupied regions still ended up with the Nazis, much of it melted, recast, and stripped of identifying marks. But Nazi looting was only half the global picture. In Asia, the Japanese Empire carried out its own systematic plunder. Across China, Southeast Asia, and the Philippines, Japanese forces seized gold, silver, gems, and cultural treasures. These collections, often linked to the so-called Golden Lily operation, were allegedly hidden in underground tunnels and secret vaults, especially in the Philippines. While some accounts have become mythologized, credible evidence shows that enormous quantities of valuables were hidden and never fully recovered. By 1945, as defeat loomed for both Germany and Japan, their authorities scrambled to relocate or hide whatever treasure they could. Allied forces captured some of it. The U.S. military's Monuments and Fine Arts Unit uncovered massive stores of stolen assets in salt mines and underground bunkers. One of the most famous discoveries was in the Merkers salt mine, where American troops found more than 100 tons of gold along with priceless artwork and currency. Yet even this represented only a fraction of what had been taken. Much had already been traded, laundered through neutral nations or buried far beyond the reach of auditors. After the war, the story shifted from battlefield theft to geopolitical maneuvering. Europe was shattered, borders were unstable, and the Cold War was beginning. This chaos allowed countless tons of gold to vanish into new political and financial networks. In 1946, the Allies created the Tripartite Gold Commission to return recovered gold to its original owners. Over several decades, the Commission redistributed roughly 336 tons. But compared to the thousands of tons believed to have been looted, this was only a small fragment. The rest disappeared into private collections, undeclared state reserves, and covert financial pipelines. One of the most controversial elements of this period involved neutral nations, especially Switzerland. Swiss banks and the Swiss National Bank purchased hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gold from Nazi Germany during the war. While some of it had legitimate origins, much of it came from occupied countries or from victims of the Holocaust. Investigations in the late 1990s confirmed that Swiss banks knowingly handled looted gold and maintained secrecy long after the war. Similar accusations targeted banks in Sweden, Portugal, Spain, and Turkey. In the early Cold War, hidden gold became a powerful tool. Untraceable reserves could fund intelligence operations, support political factions, or stabilize allied governments. Some analysts believe that portions of the missing gold were used in covert operations throughout Europe and Asia. In this sense, the gold didn't disappear. It became part of the shadow economy of global politics. By the mid-20th century, even as the world adopted more complex financial systems, gold remained central under the Bretton Woods arrangement. Officially, reserves were declared and prices were fixed. Unofficially, some governments likely held more gold than they admitted, and some of it may have originated from wartime seizures. For nations rebuilding from the ruins, questions about the true origins of their gold reserves were often ignored for the sake of stability. The mystery, however, persists. Caches of gold are still occasionally reported. Hidden bunkers in forests, supposed Nazi gold trains, sunken ships carrying wartime payments. Many turn out to be myths, but some discoveries are genuine. What is certain is that significant amounts of gold vanished between 1939 and 1945, and much of it has never been formally recovered. In modern value, the missing gold represents billions. Symbolically, it reveals how fragile property and morality become during global upheaval. The relevance today is not only about lost bars of gold, but about the methods used to make wealth disappear. The war revealed how quickly assets can be transferred, concealed, or laundered when powerful actors decide to ignore the rules. The same mechanism, offshore transfers, intermediaries, opaque ownership structures, remain in use today by states, corporations, and individuals. In financial crises, wealth does not vanish. It quietly moves to safer hands. For investors, the lesson is clear. Gold may appear to be the safest store of value, immune to inflation or political turmoil, but its security depends entirely on who controls it and where it is kept. In wartime Europe, central bank vaults were no protection against occupying armies. In peacetime, sudden changes in regulation or national policy can be just as dangerous. The disappearance of wartime gold is not just a historical puzzle. It is a warning about how easily wealth can be transferred or taken in moments of chaos. History may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. When global systems are under pressure, from war, economic crisis, or geopolitical rivalry, the line between legal transactions and outright theft becomes razor thin. The missing gold of the post-war world reminds us that financial safety is never guaranteed. In an age of digital currencies and shifting alliances, the question is no longer whether wealth can disappear, but how quickly, and whether you will realize it before it is gone. Understanding this pattern isn't just knowledge, it's protection. Please subscribe and support me to keep this kind of content coming. Goodbye.